And now moving on to the NASCAR Cup Series, the playoff grid, 16 drivers officially set now, and Tyler Reddick was able to survive the mayhem at Daytona and eliminated his teammate Austin Dillon from being able to get a spot in the playoffs. Ryan Blaney won at Daytona, his third one of the season, second in a row after Michigan, and this is his first season with multiple wins, and he appears to have quite a bit of momentum entering the playoffs. In your guys' opinion, can Ryan Blaney put together a championship run? Is he peaking at the right time?
Well, I brought up last week, 10 years ago, when Tony Stewart went on his magical run and said, as the chase was approaching, we don't even deserve to be in the chase. And what does he do? He goes out and wins 5 of the 10 chase races and wins the championship. So when you have a reset, when you have everybody brought together, if somebody gets hot at the right time, peaks at the right time, I think absolutely they're championship contenders. I think in particular this year we've seen a lot of parity. I don't know that McDowell is a true championship contender. Almirola, had a brilliant drive at New Hampshire, but the way his season's gone, not sure he's going to be up there when it comes time for the championship for Phoenix. Reddick in particular, if the championship race were at Homestead, maybe, because I know he loves that high line. That might be something that he could get up there and contend. But, I don't know that with how RCR's run this year, but he's going to be a contention for that. But I think you look at the playoff grid, the way the system is now, I think there's easily 10 drivers or so, but you could realistically see holding that championship trophy up at Phoenix in just a couple of months' time.
I have to completely agree with you, Ben. Last night, it was, like I said yesterday, it was a wild and crazy race. I don't think it gave Ryan Blaney that much momentum going into the playoffs. And I have to say that I believe it will be. Mike Montal is definitely not a championship contender. Eric Almirola, yes, he won it at Loudon, but I don't think he'll go all the way. Overall, I believe it will be somebody in the top 10 that has a good shot to win the NASCAR Cup Championship, holding the championship high at Phoenix in November.
I certainly think Ryan Blaney and that number 12 team have a lot of momentum. And at the post race press conference, Blaney didn't want to truly commit to talking about competing for a championship right now. He's just taking it one race at a time. And my editor in chief at the podium finish, Rob Tiongson, had an opportunity to ask crew chief Todd Gordon a question. And as we all know, Todd Gordon is going to be retiring as a crew chief at the end of the season. And Rob asked him the question, like, since things are going so well with Ryan Blaney, you guys have a lot of momentum heading into the playoffs. Why would you want to retire when things are going so well? Are you going to reconsider it? And Todd Gordon said that, yeah, he's still going to retire. He's still made up his mind. And his goal just for the rest of the season, just compete for wins and try to, throughout the playoffs, win a few more races and compete for the championship. And for crew chief Todd Gordon, I think that will certainly it would be a great opportunity for him to go out on top if Ryan Blaney is able to get hot at the right time, keep the momentum going, and maybe Blaney could be that surprise contender we didn't see coming, compete for the NASCAR Cup Series championship this year. And speaking of championships, the regular season championship last night was won by Young Money Kyle Larson over Denny Hamlin, and he's a favorite to win the championship at Phoenix right now. He's 50 points ahead of Kevin Harvick, who is currently 16th in the playoff standings. The playoffs starting at Darlington Raceway. With the Cookout Southern 500, one of NASCAR's crown jewel events. Do we anticipate any potential surprises at Darlington to shake up the playoff standings?
Oh, that's a good question, Kobe. If you're a NASCAR fan, you've been watching for a long, long time. You know the history of Darlington. They call it the track too tough to tame. They call it the Lady in Black. We've seen crazy things happen there. The race will be run at night. I believe it's gonna be interesting to see how these next few weeks pan out. I believe the Kyle Larson will hoist the championship trophy high at Phoenix. So it's going to be interesting to see till everything happens at Darlington next Sunday night. And we have a question from Amber saying, how does Kyle Larson perform at Darlington? That's a very, very good question, Amber. Right now he's first, overall, and I believe he'll be starting first at Darlington if they go by points. So we could see Kyle Larson contend for the win next Sunday night. It is possible, but I believe Kyle Larson to me has to be the overall favorite going into Darlington and overall to win the NASCAR championship this year.
Yeah, Joe, I see just here in our in-show chat, you mentioned best finish of second twice and 2 third-place finishes. So I don't know that off the top of my head for sure. I'll take your word for it. So it sounds like I know Larson hasn't won at Darlington before, but could certainly be a contender. In terms of will there be any surprises, I suppose somebody like a McDowell winning and locking himself into the next round would be a surprise. But it's early enough. I think there's a lot of different scenarios that you could think could very well play out. Like I said, there's a lot of parity this year, a lot of drivers who I think are serious contenders for the championship. All the Hendrick drivers, all of Gibbs drivers as well. I don't know that any of them winning would be a major surprise to me, unless it's, like I said, somebody like a McDowell or, Reddick having not won a race this year. That would maybe shake things up a little bit, but it's still only the first round, and you're only going to eliminate 4 of the 16 drivers over the next 3 races. So I think it's a little bit early to be talking about that.
And at Darlington, once again, they're going to be using high horsepower and a smaller spoiler, so it'll be a lot more in the driver's hands. Daytona had quite a few cautions, several multi-car wrecks, including the last lap crash when Kurt Busch turned Daniel Suarez into Kevin Harvick and tore up a bunch of cars there at the end. And compared to last year's or past playoff cutoff races, where does this year's Daytona race rank in your opinion?
I mean, it was pretty. Or go ahead, Adam.
All right, for me, I can say I really liked the package last night. It reminded me of, when I started watching NASCAR racing. The 2-wide racing, the 3-wide racing. You did have the sucker hole, like Kobe said yesterday. I can say that it was a really good race. We all anticipated the big one. It did happen. Overall, it was a really good race, and if I have, I would give it. I'd have to give it a 7.5 out of 10 on a 1 to 10 scale.
Yeah, I thought the racing was pretty decent. I'm not a fan of super speedway racing in general, just because I think it's a lot more of a lottery, and you do have the potential to see big accidents and a lot of cars get torn up, especially when you make it the regular season finale. And I love Dale Jr. I know Dale Jr. has been on record as saying in the past he'd like to see Daytona start and end the season. I don't think that would be a very good idea at all. I think it's just there's too much potential for craziness, especially in the format where one race determines your champion among 4 drivers. That certainly wouldn't be a good way to crown a champion, even more so than I don't think the current way is a good way to crown a champion. But last night I thought the racing was pretty good until we got down to the last 20 laps, and then you had the one major accident, you had the red flag, and then the big wreck coming to the finish line after the overtime period. So that always frustrates me to see a bunch of great race cars get torn up right at the end of the race, right at the finish. But solid job to Ryan Blaney. I think we keep going back and forth in recent years, between Keselowski and Hamlin being the best super speedway racers in NASCAR. I think Blaney's certainly making the case for himself right now with his wins in Talladega and now Daytona. So good race for him, good race for Bubba Wallace tying his best career finish, and want to give a shout out to BJ McLeod and Josh Bilicki as well for their top 10 finishes for Live Fast and Rick Ware. If there is a silver lining to this kind of racing, it does give you the potential to see small teams like that get up there and mix it up with the favorites and everything. And Rick Ware certainly needed it after that caution took out 3/4 of their team there. So, good run for those guys as well.
And speaking of the racing, yesterday we talked about not knowing what to expect with the changes to the package. No wicker bill on the spoiler. You cut the horsepower down from 510 to 450, and no aero dust, which was I believe was a carryover from the changes that were made at Talladega. And last night, in my opinion, I didn't really see much of a change in the racing. I think the only big changes, they were a little bit slow. I remember and at Talladega, they were like in 200, 201, 202 mile per hour range. But last night, fastest speeds were around 191, 190, 189. So I think NASCAR definitely accomplished their goal to bring the speeds down. And if you saw the crash on the last lap, you saw when Daniel Suarez hit Kevin Harvick really hard at that certain angle. I'm wondering if we had kept over the aero package from Talladega, would Kevin Harvick have potentially flipped over there? But it was really nice to see when Kevin Harvick spun around so fast, the car didn't even lift off the ground. And I think with the changes NASCAR made, the aero package certainly really helped the cause there. And overall, I thought it was a really action-packed race with a lot of crazy, insane action. I think that's just how you can describe these restrictor plate tracks, Daytona and Talladega. And I'm sure when we get to Talladega in just a couple of weeks' time, it's gonna be really, really crazy because last night's race was insane. And Tyler Reddick, Kevin Harvick, Denny Hamlin are the three winless drivers in the playoffs. The race to the championship begins next week as the drivers will try to tame the Lady in Black and bring home a crown jewel trophy.
Don't be an anonymous investor. Join the stock market social media platform public.com. Invest any amount of money and share with friends and new friends. Discover new opportunities such as new companies and potential business partners, and useful tools for beginners, and share your experience with friends on public.com. Link in the video description gets you $5 for being a Grid Network viewer. Use the referral code GRIDnet for your free $5 to invest and start investing and networking on public.com.